Why is your fiancé on Tinder? My best friend texted me during my bachelor party. No words, just a screenshot. Her profile, her face. Looking for something real before I settle. That's what her bio said. And we were getting married in 3 days. 3 days until I'd be standing at the altar with someone I thought was my future. And in that moment, all I could think was, how long had she been planning to settle? Let me rewind a bit, because you need to understand the full picture before you judge me for what I did next. My name is Michael. I'm 29. I work in IT, nothing glamorous, but I'm decent at what I do. I live in North Carolina, not exactly the epicenter of drama, but apparently no place is safe from this kind of thing. I met Claire at a mutual friend's birthday party 4 years ago. She was loud in the way that made people shut up and listen. Confident, quick-witted, wore a leather jacket to a wine bar like she owned the place. I was probably the quietest guy in the room, tall, awkward, the kind of guy who double-checks a joke in his head before saying it out loud. But somehow, she gravitated toward me. And just like that, we became a thing. Now fast forward through years of dating, 2 apartments, a million shared playlists, 1 adopted dog, and last fall, my proposal. I saved up for a ring she'd mentioned offhand once. Nothing crazy expensive, but she cried when she saw it. Or at least, I thought she cried. I thought we were happy. Jake, my best friend since 6th grade, organized the bachelor party. Low-key, nothing Vegas style. Just close friends, a rented cabin, and way too many beers. The first night went smooth. Fire pit, stories, old jokes. Felt like a celebration. But on the second night, it changed. I was halfway through laughing at some stupid dare someone had just completed when Jake handed me his phone. I assumed he wanted me to cue up music or check something funny. Instead, I saw her, Claire, in a new photo I didn't recognize. Her hair styled differently than usual. And beneath her name, looking for something real before I settle. The bio hit me harder than the picture. Before she settled. With me. Like marrying me was some act of resignation. The worst part? The profile had been active that night. Her location was less than a mile away. Jake had matched with her on accident. He'd swiped right as a joke to mess with the algorithm, until he realized who it was. I left the room without saying a word. I didn't tell anyone what I saw. I just said I needed air. Out behind the cabin, there was nothing but woods and silence. No cell reception. No light except the glow of Jake's phone, still in my hand. I stared at that screen for a long time. And then, like an idiot, I swiped right. Just to see. Just to know. It's a match. She had swiped on him, Jake. And now on me, under a fake name. That's when it hit me. This wasn't some old profile she forgot to delete. She was still active. Still looking. While our wedding guests were RSVPing. While her dress was being tailored. While I was sitting in a rented cabin with people who thought this was the happiest week of my life. I didn't sleep that night. Didn't drink. Didn't speak. I sat in the dark and thought. The next morning, I showered early and acted like everything was normal. I didn't tell Jake. Didn't say a word to anyone. I needed time. I needed proof. Because part of me, the dumbest, softest part, wanted to believe there was a mistake. Maybe she forgot to delete the account. Maybe she didn't write that bio. Maybe this was all some cruel prank. But even if it was, I needed to know. Because if I walked down that aisle without knowing for sure, it would eat me alive. So I did the thing you're not supposed to do when you're 3 days away from marrying someone you love. I started watching her. I started checking things. When she texted me, I noted how quickly she replied. When she said she was at work, I checked the timestamps. When she said she was going to her final dress fitting, I decided to verify. She didn't know I'd help pay for the dress, or that I had the receipt. It was supposed to be a surprise, a gift to lighten her load. I called the bridal boutique, and the woman on the other end said, Claire? No, she never came to the final fitting. The last time we saw her was 3 weeks ago. Said she'd pick it up this weekend. That's when I knew. Something wasn't right. That afternoon, Claire texted me like everything was fine. Can't wait for Sunday. I'm so nervous and excited. Hope you boys aren't doing anything too crazy, haha. I replied with a heart emoji and told her I loved her. She said it back. I watched the typing bubble appear, then disappear, then nothing. Later that day, I made a detour. I drove past the building where Claire worked, an upscale real estate office downtown. Her car wasn't there. She said she was working late, closing a big deal. I waited across the street for over an hour. No Claire. Then, like a movie scene I didn't ask to be cast in, I saw her car pull up at a hotel. Not even one of the big chain ones. A trendy, overpriced boutique place with glowing art on the walls and fake candles on the check-in counter. She didn't go in alone. There was a guy with her. Athletic build. Tall. Beard. They didn't look like co-workers. They didn't look like anything other than exactly what I was afraid they were. And that's when I stopped lying to myself. That's when I knew. The wedding wasn't in 3 days. The performance was. The hardest part of the next morning wasn't pretending everything was okay. It was realizing that Claire didn't even flinch when I called her. She sounded exactly the same. Sweet, bubbly, like someone who was about to marry the love of her life. She talked about flowers, her bridesmaids, the table arrangements. I listened. I even laughed when she told me the cake shop messed up the flavor and had to redo it. Meanwhile, I was trying to decide if I'd confront her or destroy the entire illusion. I spent that morning reviewing everything I'd overlooked the last 6 months. The new phone password she suddenly had to add for work. The networking brunches she'd go to, fully dressed up but never taking a photo. The canceled nights with friends because she was tired, even though she came home with fresh makeup. It was all there. I just didn't want to see it before. And now that I'd opened my eyes, it was everywhere. I checked the Tinder account again, the one I created the night before under a fake name. She was online. Right then, her distance from me was just under a mile, and she'd updated her bio. Now it read, "Just want honesty and passion before I say yes to forever." I didn't match her this time. I wanted to watch. The rest of the day was a blur. The groomsmen came back to town, everyone buzzing with energy. Jake asked me quietly if everything was okay. He said I seemed off. I told him I was just hungover. He didn't believe me, but he let it go. That night, I did something I never thought I'd do. I created a second fake Tinder account, completely different photos, carefully chosen. I used AI to blend a face that didn't exist. Gave the guy a name. Daniel. Age 31. Photographer. Slightly artsy bio. Wants something deep, no games. Within 2 hours, I matched with Claire. She opened the chat first. "Hey, smiley face. You seem like someone who knows what he wants." That was her first message. I sat staring at the screen for a long time before I typed back. "Maybe. Do you?" She responded within seconds. "Working on it. My life's complicated right now." I told her I liked complicated. She sent a blushing emoji. And just like that, she was telling a stranger things she never said to me. Over the next 24 hours, we talked. A lot. Or rather, Claire talked. And I took notes. She told Daniel that she was technically engaged, that he was a good guy, safe, steady, but that she wasn't sure about the spark. She said she was scared to settle without being sure she'd lived. She told me she needed one last experience before giving up her freedom. She made it sound like marriage was a prison cell, and I was the guard. She didn't say my name, but I didn't need her to. She was talking about me. On Saturday morning, I tested something. I asked, "Do you love him?" She waited longer to reply this time. "I care about him. He's been there for me. I just don't know if he's it." That word stuck in my head all day. It. Like I was a placeholder until something more exciting showed up. Like I was the safe bet while she played with wild cards. That night, while she was having dinner with her bridesmaids, I drove by her apartment. The lights were off. Her car was gone. Her girls' night was apparently a solo evening at a different address. The same boutique hotel. Again, I wasn't angry in the way people expect. I didn't punch a wall or scream into a pillow. It was more like something turned off inside me. Whatever switch used to make me want to fix things, gone. All that was left was a plan. Not to humiliate her, but to leave clearly and never look back. The next morning was supposed to be wedding day prep. Hair, tux, family brunches, a final rehearsal. Instead, I was at a quiet cafe downtown, writing a message. Not to her, to our guests. Sunday morning dawned bright, crisp, and raw. I sat in a corner booth at a coffee shop downtown, one that Claire and I had visited maybe a dozen times while planning the wedding. She loved their cinnamon chai, said it tasted like Christmas. The irony wasn't lost on me. I wasn't there for nostalgia. I was there because I needed space to think, away from calls and noise in her voice. A place where I could stare into my phone like it was a window into some alternate universe. One where I wasn't about to marry someone I couldn't trust. I opened the Tinder chat. Claire had messaged Daniel again. "You up?" It was 7:14 a.m. She was nervous. I could feel it between the lines. I didn't reply right away. I wanted her to sweat. Instead, I opened Instagram. Not mine. His. The guy she'd gone to the hotel with. I remembered his face, the beard, the smug posture. I'd seen him walk into that lobby like he belonged there with her. After enough digging and some guesswork, I found his profile. His name was Cole. He wasn't private, which helped. His grid was filled with photos of workouts, luxury cars, rooftop bars, and carefully filtered selfies. And then, 6 weeks back, I found something that froze my breath. A photo of him at a cabin in the mountains, smiling at the camera, drink in hand. The focus was on him, but in the blurred background, almost like an afterthought, was Claire. Same necklace she always wore. My hoodie. The one she used to steal because it smelled like home. She was leaning on a railing, talking to someone just out of frame. Laughing. I zoomed in until the image was a mess of pixels, but it didn't matter. I recognized the moment, even without the details. It wasn't business. It wasn't innocent. It was something else. That was when I realized this hadn't started recently. It wasn't a one-night slip or a cold feet mistake. She had been preparing for this, for him, while I'd been picking invitation fonts and finalizing dinner options. While I was budgeting for a honeymoon she didn't intend to enjoy with me. She was trying on lives like outfits, deciding which one made her feel more alive. I stopped sipping my coffee. There was no need for it anymore. The caffeine wasn't going to sharpen what was already painfully clear. I went back to the Tinder chat. Claire was still typing. Then she stopped. Then the bubble appeared again. I had a dream about you last night. I closed the app. It didn't matter. I spent the afternoon writing emails. Not angry rants, not dramatic declarations. Just facts. Screenshots. Explanations. One to my family. One to hers. One to the wedding party. One to the officiant. All simple. All direct. The wedding would not be happening. There would be no ceremony. No reception. No explanation owed beyond what was attached to the email. And then I crafted one more message. For her father. We had shared a complicated but respectful relationship. He was a stern man, but he'd always treated me fairly. He once told me, a man earns his daughter's hand by proving he can stand beside her, even when it's inconvenient. Well, this wasn't inconvenient. It was impossible. So I attached something extra for him. Receipts. Every cost I'd covered. Dress. Venue deposit. Flowers. Photographer. Even the rental chairs. I made it very clear that I wouldn't be pursuing reimbursement. I simply wanted him to know where the money had gone and who had benefited from it. And then, at the very end, I wrote, you raised a daughter who lies with ease. I wish that weren't true. I wish I didn't have the proof. But I do. And I hope, someday, she learns to be as loyal as the man you try to make her believe she deserved. By Sunday evening, I had everything scheduled. Emails set to go out Monday morning, exactly 1 hour before the ceremony was meant to begin. I booked a hotel 2 towns over. One night. Just far enough that no one would find me by accident. I took only one bag. Left the ring on the bathroom counter with a note. Not to her. Just one word. Match. That was it. The final line in the story she wrote with her swipes. Monday morning. The day we were supposed to be married. While her bridesmaids were probably curling their hair and debating lipstick shades, Claire was sitting alone in her apartment, waiting for a ceremony that would never happen. By 9 a.m., the emails had gone out. The first reply came from my cousin Jenna, who simply wrote, Holy S*****T. I don't even know what to say. Then came the rest. One by one. My uncle texted, asking if I was okay. My mom called twice. Jake, of course, knew enough to stay quiet. He sent just a thumbs up and a you did the right thing. The group chat of groomsmen exploded. At some point, someone posted, so, do we cancel the bar tab? And that actually made me laugh. But what I was waiting for was silence. I was waiting for her. At 9:47 a.m., Claire called me. I didn't pick up. She called again. Then again. 6 missed calls. Then she left a voicemail. I didn't listen to it. Instead, I opened the Tinder app one last time. The fake account, Daniel, was still active. And Claire was still messaging. What I saw next made my chest go still. I'm getting married today, she wrote. But I can't stop thinking about you. I stared at the screen, wondering if she even believed the things she typed, or if she just liked the rush of double lives. Then came the next message. He's great. But sometimes I think I just said yes because it felt safe. Not because it felt right. The word echoed in my mind, safe. It wasn't the first time she'd said it. Weeks ago, in a message to Daniel, she called me her safety net. She said I'd never leave, that I was too loyal, too invested, that I'd forgive anything because I was in it too deep. I remember reading that line and feeling a heat crawl up my neck. Not rage, just shame. The kind you only feel when someone turns your best trait into a weakness. At 10:02 a.m., I finally responded to her Tinder messages. Still as Daniel. What would you do if he knew everything? There was a long pause. Then, he'd never find out. He's not like that. Another pause. He trusts me too much. It was a punch straight to the gut. And then came the final message. You're just a fantasy, Daniel. But I need this fantasy one last time. After today, I'm his forever. I sat with that. Just stared at it. Because what she didn't know, what she never saw coming, was that Daniel wasn't some abstract fling. Daniel was me. And I was done being her safety net. At 10:15 a.m., I switched apps and sent her a message from my actual number. Not a call. Not a voice note. Just one sentence. Check your email. It took her 4 minutes to reply. What is this? Then came another. Michael, what the hell is this? And finally, you sent this to my dad? Yes, I did. Every message she sent to Daniel. Screenshots of her bio. The matches. The receipts. I didn't embellish. I didn't need to. The truth was damning enough. The next time she called, I answered. I didn't say a word. She screamed. She sobbed. She said, You tricked me. I stayed silent. She said, "This was a mistake, Michael. I got scared. I never slept with anyone else. It didn't mean anything." And that was when I spoke. Calmly. Clearly. "You were right, Claire. I trusted you too much." Then I hung up. 10 minutes later, Jake called me laughing so hard he could barely breathe. Apparently, Claire's uncle, who had been in charge of filming the wedding, had received the email just before setting up his equipment. He read every word. Out loud. By accident. To half the early guests. Right in the church. That was the final nail. She couldn't cover it up. Couldn't lie her way out. The fantasy was over. And suddenly, she was standing alone in a white dress, in front of 100 confused people, holding a phone like it had just detonated her whole life. The ceremony was scheduled for 11 a.m. By 10:35, word had already started spreading through the guests. Phones buzzed. Whispers passed down pews like sparks. No one knew what to believe at first. It was too ridiculous, too surreal. But the screenshots were real. The dates were recent. And the voice behind every lie had Claire's name under it. Guests began to shift uncomfortably in their seats. Some of them started walking out. The officiant stood by the altar, looking pale. The florist sat beside the gift table, unsure whether to start packing up or keep waiting. Claire's mother was crying in the back row, shaking her head and mouthing, "No, no, no." Claire, meanwhile, had locked herself in the bridal suite. Her maid of honor, Rachel, I think, called me twice. I declined. Then she texted, "Michael, please. At least talk to her. You've made your point." She didn't get it. This wasn't about a point. It was about the truth. And for the first time in this entire mess, I had stopped running from it. Back at the hotel, I ordered a sandwich and watched from a distance as Claire's life caught fire. Her dad replied to my email earlier than expected. No caps lock. No threats. Just 5 words. "Thank you for your honesty." That was all. But it landed heavier than any threat could have. At 11:12, Jake sent me a photo. The aisle was empty. The guests had either left or were standing in clusters, trying not to look at each other. The wedding singer had already packed up and gone home. Claire's father stood at the front, arms crossed, eyes closed. And the altar? Still decorated. Still pristine. But the groom? Nowhere in sight. By noon, it was over. People started posting online. Not the full story, of course, just enough to fuel curiosity. Apparently, the groom found out something huge the night before. He canceled everything right before she walked down the aisle. No one's saying what really happened, but yikes. My name was being whispered, then defended, then debated in corners of people's Facebook feeds. I didn't care. Let them talk. For once, I didn't feel the need to explain. Claire called me again that night. One last time. I was packing up my things from our apartment, grabbing just what I needed. My laptop, a few clothes, the dog's favorite toy. I let it ring. Then I picked up. Her voice was hoarse, quiet. She didn't cry this time. She didn't beg. She just asked, "Was it really all that bad?" I leaned against the wall and stared out the window. "You wanted something real before you settled, right? You got it." I hung up. I didn't hear from her again. Later that week, Jake came over with beers and a pizza. We sat in silence for the first few minutes, watching some old action movie neither of us really cared about. Then he finally said, "You know, I always thought she was a little too rehearsed. Like she was auditioning to be someone's perfect wife." I nodded. "I just didn't think the role she wanted came with so many understudies." He laughed, even though it wasn't funny. It just felt good to laugh again. It's been 4 months since that morning. For months since the ceremony that never happened, the silence that followed, and the wildfire of speculation that tried to explain it all. I moved out of the apartment 2 days after the canceled wedding. I didn't want anything from it. Not the couch we picked together, not the framed pictures of trips I now knew were half lie, half stage. I left the keys on the kitchen counter, took the dog, and drove 6 hours west to a town I'd visited once as a kid. I didn't go to disappear. I went to begin. Starting over sounds poetic when you say it out loud. In practice, it's quiet. Lonely. Boring, even. But sometimes, boring is good. I took a remote contract job, IT consulting for a few small firms. Rented a small house near the woods. Bought a coffee maker that actually works. I go for walks in the morning with Cooper, my dog. He doesn't ask questions. Just keeps pace beside me. It's been peaceful. Not happy. Not tragic. Just real. I haven't heard from Claire since that last call, though I did see her name pop up once. Jake sent me a screenshot. He'd gone back on Tinder for the first time in a while. Just a casual scroll. And there she was. Same face. Same smirk. Same flattering angle. But the bio had changed. Now it read, "Just looking for someone who won't run away." Jake texted me underneath the screenshot. Do I swipe right? I didn't answer. I stared at the picture for a long time. Not because I missed her. Not because I was angry. Just because it hit me how far I'd come. There was a time when that face meant home. Comfort. Future. Now. It meant escape. I opened my own Tinder app for the first time in months. Not to message anyone. Not even to scroll. I just looked at the home screen. The colors. The layout. The place where so much of this began. Then I deleted it. No fanfare. No dramatic music. Just a thumb press and a confirmation box. Gone. I'm not in love. Not dating. Not even sure I want to be. But I'm something else now. I'm free. Free from the idea that loyalty means blind obedience. Free from the belief that love is supposed to be earned through patience alone. Free from the person I was becoming. Someone afraid to ask questions because the answers might hurt. Claire wanted something real. She just didn't know that real comes with boundaries. With consequences. With a person who might one day see through the mask. And when I finally did, I didn't scream. I didn't beg. I didn't burn the house down. I just stepped out of the frame and let her ruin the picture all by herself. The last thing I did before closing this chapter was walk through the venue we'd booked. I hadn't canceled the reservation immediately. Part of me wanted to see it once more, to understand what I'd walked away from. The place was quiet, empty, still decorated for someone else's wedding. I stood at the altar alone for a minute. No lights, no music, just silence. And then, without warning, a thought came into my head. A simple one. This was never meant to be mine. And just like that, I left. And that's the story. If you're still here, that means you're one of us. So go ahead, hit that subscribe button. I drop new chaos every single day. And trust me, tomorrow's story, it's even worse than this one.